When you want to shape your sound in more depth than the preset macros and XY pad allow, it's time to head for BASSYNTH's design page. Here you can customize the factory presets to your liking and create your own patches from scratch. Each of the 4 sound sources is housed in its own color-coded voice section, and the 3 buttons at the top right of each voice are used to turn them on and off, link them for adjustment of filter and envelope controls, and randomize the sound source selection. Below those, the mute and solo buttons are self-explanatory, and the slider to the left sets the volume level of the voice. Clicking the source name opens the sound source browser, as discussed earlier. Each voice has its own independent control set. The tune parameter applies up to 2 octaves and 50 cents of detune up or down, while the start knob shifts the playback start point into the sound source by up to 250 milliseconds. The stretch control brings a touch of old-school digital grit into play by switching from multi-sample mode when moved away from the off position, instead taking the selected note and pitch shifting it across the whole keyboard. Start and stretch are substituted for position and warp when a wavetable source is selected for the voice, which we'll return to momentarily. Clicking the bird icon opens the voice controls pop-up. BASSYNTH features mono, legato and poly modes. In legato mode, the glide control sets the amount of time it takes to move between legato notes from 1 to 500 milliseconds. In mono and poly modes, the analog slider is used to employ up to 8 round-robin samples per voice, delivering a more organic sound. And in poly mode, the voices parameter establishes the maximum number of simultaneous voices, up to 64. The Unison section introduces up to 8 Unison voices for huge, rich tones. BASSYNTH's carefully tuned Unison engine enables detuning and stereo widening of the stacked voices, and overall control of their volume via the blend knob. The Slop Control sets the global amount of per note random variation applied to the tuning, panning, volume and sample start point. The 4 adjacent knobs offset each of those parameters individually relative to the global amount. Through editing of the analog, Unison and Slop controls, BASSYNTH can be made to sound and feel amazingly analog. Each voice feeds into its own resonant filter, the cutoff and resonance of which are governed by the freq and reso knobs. Clicking the icon to the right of those opens the filter pop-up, where you can set the response to low pass, high pass or band pass, set the roll-off slope to 12 or 24 dB per octave, and choose one of 6 colourful filter types. Daft and Ladder are Korg and Moog inspired filters with up to 12 dB of overdrive on tap. State is a state variable type, changing in response curve as the cutoff is raised and lowered, and Adaptive modulates the resonance with the cutoff position to keep it transparent and under control. and the vowel and phaser options offer formant filtering and phasing. The secondary high-pass filter at the bottom is useful for layering multiple voices when you'll often want to clear space in the low frequencies in one voice to make room for another. The ADSR amp envelope lets you shape the dynamic profile of the voice. The attack, decay and release stages can be set in milliseconds and seconds, or quantized to regular dotted or triplet note values using the quaver pop-up for perfectly musical timing. When one of BASSYNTH's 200 plus wavetables is loaded into a voice, the start and stretch knobs become position and warp controls, the first governing the wavetable position. Hold the shift key while dragging to reveal the 3D wavetable below. The second dialing in one of 14 wavetable distortion and shaping algorithms as selected in the voice pop-up. Also in the pop-up, the random phase slider randomizes the start phase of the wavetable with every key press. Particularly effective when used in conjunction with Unison. Wavetable quality can be balanced against CPU usage with the lo-fi, medium and high options. Medium will suffice most of the time.